I hope you are all here, and I'm going to present to you EduCOR, which is an educational and career-oriented recommendation ontology. This is a work that was done together with Hassan, Reza, Serjot, Gabor, and Professor Auren and Nidal. It's a joint work from University of Hannover with L3S and TIB, and also University of Siegen. It was published in ISWC, which is International Semantic Web Conference. It's almost 2 years ago that we submitted it, and a little bit 1.5 years ago that I presented it in the conference. This is a presentation from there. I would like to guide you through it and maybe raise some interesting questions regarding what it's maybe more relevant to Dalia workshop and also the EduCOR. So the problem, which is the most important aspect regarding maybe also in your case, is that the educational resources and open educational resources come with low quality metadata. It's a bit the outcome also from the previous discussion that we had. They are also isolated content-wise from other similar resources, and this is something obvious if you just search for, let's say, second-degree equations on any Google search engine, any search engine, Google or not. You'll find so much content, but these are not related to each other. This is just the search engine somehow relates them, but they can be coming in different types. Other might be in images, other in just simple text, PDFs. It's complicated, and they're not connected, they're isolated there. And we are also lacking of high quality services based on open educational resources, and this is also where EduCOR steps in. Regarding now on the more technical side, the different schemata and vocabulary. Schemata, you can think of them like the architectures, the lack of online availability. This is also an issue that was raised earlier, something maybe it's published on 2015, but nowadays it's not available anymore. And the lack of ability of accommodating personalized recommendations. So we might have some content that is present, still online, available, but it doesn't provide any metadata or content-related data that we can provide some personalized aspects to it. And this is really important. And there is no model available for connecting these different angles of education, the labor market, which is really important for retraining workers, and individual needs of learners. So in that sense, we have developed the EduCOR. Now, who is interested? Interested definitely the semantic web community, because an ontology is a semantic web structure. We have the education side, which there are a lot of efforts lately to enrich tools with artificial intelligence towards smart tutoring systems, smart education, smart learning environments, intelligent textbooks, and also, of course, to provide personalized learning recommendations. In the broader community, there is also an interest there, since you can see that there are efforts in the European Union for the digital transformation of education, in general also because of COVID. All the learning was pushed online, and this is a trend that doesn't seem to just fade away with the pandemic. And of course, there are educational resource and open educational resources repositories, which are also interested. Now, this is what we developed, and I'll guide you a bit through it in the next slides. What you can see here with the different colors are the different patterns named A, B, C, D, F, G. Of course, they have their own names. What you see in blue are the different classes. The connections represent the different relations between the classes. Each class has its own data type properties, but they are not present in this schema. And what is also interesting is that you see that we have here the domain ontology. The domain ontology, for example, it can be a knowledge graph in physics, a knowledge graph in mathematics. And of course, the job ontology, which can be coming, for example, from ESCOM. So here we went through some developmental phases, which I'm going to skip for time constraints. I'll just say a little bit for the technical side that the ontology reuses a lot of international standards and other established ontologies, such as the schema.org, and it's published under the CC0 Alliance, which means everyone can reuse it. It's openly accessible. And what is also new related to these educational ontologies that I'm going to also to demonstrate in the state of the art is the FAIR principles, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is something new introduced to this kind of ontologies, and we are accommodating it. So without further ado, let's go a little bit and check which are the patterns. So we have identified the main components of an educational ontology of EduCOR, which is the educational resource. It's the skill, a test, knowledge topic, learning path, a recommendation, and user profile. Now, EduCOR consists of all these 5 patterns which interlink together, but each one separately can also be used in a specific application. And that's also one of our benefits. So now, first of all, the educational resource pattern, we see that it's very much interlinked with the domain ontology, both for the educational resource and for the knowledge topic. Then we have some quality indicators, multimedia data. We also link to accessibility. The accessibility, I have to say, in our view, has to do with 2 different factors, both accessibility related to special education and both accessibility related to content access, user access data, and so on, which is related to, connected to the user profile, and then analyze the multimedia data to different types of multimedia. Then we have the skill pattern, which is connected both to the domain ontology and the job ontology, because a skill is very much related also to the career, profession, and so on, which skill is directly connected to the knowledge topic, to learning outcomes, and to a classification which we define some kind of hierarchy or taxonomy. Then the test pattern. A test consists, of course, of questions and answers and exercises which have them. It's related to a user, and it's related to one or multiple knowledge topics. And then we also get the connection from the knowledge topic to the skill. Again, as before, the learning outcome also connects with the knowledge topic. And here it's also something else that comes right after, the learning path, which is a sequence of knowledge topics, either that have been already followed or are coming up next for maybe the journey as being defined in EduCOR, which are defining some learning goals. Then the knowledge topic, which is here in the middle. The knowledge topic comes from a domain ontology, has some parts which are the theoretical part, the methodology part, and the exercises, the practical part, which the learning path consists of knowledge from knowledge topics. And again, we have the connections as we had before from other patterns. The learning path, which, as I described before, it consists of knowledge topics and has a learning goal as an outcome, is related to a user profile, and then it has also here the recommendation. So a recommendation defines a learning path. A recommendation in our sense, because this is also something that we had a long discussion with Hassan and Reza, if I remember correct. It can be very different types. One of it can be a recommendation as a knowledge topic. We recommend the user what's the next knowledge topic to take. It can be also a skill. This is also something that was shown a bit in EduCOR, other related content and so on. But it can also be an action. We will see also in the user pattern right after that we define also some other characteristics related to user, and I'll come back right there in 2 slides. Then we have the recommendation, as I said, which is also related to accessibility a little bit, because we cannot recommend things that are out of reach of the user, just because of maybe some restricted actions. And here we come to the user profile, which I also think it's a bit interesting because of my current research. Here you see the user profile in the middle, which, as it was shown before, it's related to connect to the accessibility, to the learning path, to the recommendation, of course, to the user, but defines also here some interesting characteristics, which are the academic parameters, the psychological parameters, and the learning preferences. This is our vision about how things could be maybe it's a bit aligned also, I think, with the Oscar project, if I remember correct. So here, a recommendation based on a user profile could be, for example, take a break or repeat the exercise or something else. So the recommendation can have different aspects and have a broader domain than just the knowledge topics based on the different characteristics of the user as well. And then I'll forward a little bit to the evaluation. I would just on superficial say that we have a general use case, which is on a repository owner or a developer and how they can reuse it. Of course, it's the EduCOR platform. This is a screenshot from that current version, which is a bit like the legacy version right before. And then we had done some ontology evaluation. There are different ways that are recommended for ontology evaluation. Some are gold standard based approach. We were more focused on having the coverage and adaptability. Therefore, we focused on gold standard and task-based approach. Here's a bit how the gold standard based evaluation happened, from schema extraction, then the class name analysis, the class mapping, and we then calculated the recall. And here is based on 3 well-established open educational repositories, the recall numbers that we obtained. And based on the task-based, we formulated a set of questions which the EduCOR is able to answer, like how to retrieve open educational resource from multiple resources for a learning goal, how can a personalized open educational resource difficulty be chosen for the user, how to provide an open educational resource to a user with a specific access mode, the accessibility, how to retrieve required open educational resources for a certain job skill, what is required to generate personalized learning path, and how to personalize a learning recommendation based on user psychological state. A little bit about the state of the art, 3 domains, the educational ontologies, the personalized recommendation systems in e-learning, and the user modeling. And here is a bit the overview of the related works and ours. You can see that we are the only ones following the FAIR principles. Most of them do not have evaluation, and only one has their data still available, and that maybe even has changed in the last year. These are the different personalization aspects that they define, and ours, and the use of vocabularies, which is more on the technical side. And in conclusion, which might be also interesting, and of course the future work, is what we can do. The EduCOR can be used as a whole or as the specific patterns are presented, and this is something really important for us. This modularity can fit in different educational domains, either physics, sociology, psychology, mathematics, and so on. It provides with rich metadata that follow the FAIR principles, and it offers compatibility with existing educational repositories. What it cannot do, it cannot provide data specific to educational domain automatically. It needs an expert intervention, and it cannot automatically map or align data. Now, future steps we have defined here by then some, which I would say there are still some stand, like the automatic alignment, the quality indicators, which can be further research on them. And I think this is current, it's an ongoing work in EduCOR on how exactly, as far as also I saw in the slides of Gabor, on how exactly we can determine and filter out bad quality content and figure out which is a good quality content and extract metadata from there as well. Have some kind of accessibility analysis both on the special education side, both on the access content side, users' privacy, open educational knowledge graph, which is, I guess, the talk that's coming right after. But in any case, it's also an open research question, if I could say, because knowledge graphs, although they're here for almost 10 years, they are still ongoing on how they can be further developed, how we can accommodate the next generation of knowledge graphs, which they may contain all these different type of metadata that we discussed upon, because we were thinking of knowledge graphs at the early stages as just connecting different classes, just Bob plays football, but right now we need to know much more things about it, about who says that. Is it Bob that wrote this relationship? When does he play football? Is this relationship an old one? Because maybe Bob right now doesn't play football because 20 years passed and he doesn't play football anymore. So all these are really important metadata that can be further integrated in the next generation of knowledge graphs. And I believe in education, there are a lot of opportunities and challenges as well. And maybe Dalia workshop is focusing on some of them, and I would be very interested in discussing them. And one thing that's not present here, but I would like a bit more to focus on, is related to the user modeling. Because as it was shown here, the user profile, we had a long discussion about the future work and how exactly we were going to proceed later on from the next steps of EduCOR. And one was, of course, the creation of the educational knowledge graph, and one was related to the user. We really want this personalized aspect. We really want to be able to map this learning path. And this cannot be done on an educational knowledge graph itself. It needs to have user-specific data outside of it, because a domain knowledge graph is not the proper resource to accommodate user data. These are not what they are created for. Even encyclopedic knowledge graphs, like the big ones like Wikipedia, Yago, or KG, which is also defined in TIB, they do not accommodate users' data, but we need the personalization. And this is maybe where personal knowledge graphs can come in and can assist this effort. And I would be also happy to discuss this. So without further ado, I'll close this by having some acknowledgements for our partners and supporters. And I'll thank you for your attention and really quickly show you some bibliography that was present in the presentation.